There was a time when the chains around African people were visible. They were made of iron, steel, ropes, and laws that openly declared our humanity worthless. Today, the chains are harder to recognize because they are psychological, cultural, economic, and spiritual. The modern attack against African people worldwide does not always come through guns and whips anymore. It comes through media, education, entertainment, that's a big one, financial pressure, political influence, and carefully crafted social engineering designed to keep African minds divided against themselves. Hence, divided we stand, united we fall. Everywhere we look, there's confusion in the global African community. Africans on the continent are separated from Africans in the diaspora. African Americans are taught to distrust Africans from the motherland. Caribbean blacks are often disconnected from continental Africans. Black men and black women are constantly placed against each other. Different religions divide us. Different political ideologies divide us. Different social labels divide us. Skin tone divides us. Hair texture divides us. Nationality divides us. And while we fight one another over these manufactured categories, the world quietly profits from our weakness. How stupid can we be? What makes this situation even more disturbing is the fact that the priorities being forced onto African nations often do not match the real suffering of the people. Across many African countries, there are communities struggling with poverty, unstable infrastructure, food insecurity, poor healthcare access, foreign exploitation of natural resources, corrupt leadership, and economic dependency. Yet instead of focusing on those urgent problems, powerful Western interests continue to pressure African nations into embracing social agendas that many traditional African societies never asked for in the first place. And what is that social agenda? LGBTQ. We have to give them their rights. Many African people are not asking a serious question that deserves honest discussion without fear of censorship. Why is there such a strong global push to promote LGBTQ acceptance in Africa while issues like hunger, unfair trade, resource theft, education, healthcare, and economic independence receive far less passion from those same outside forces? Come on now. Why is sexual politics treated as a greater emergency than the exploitation of African minerals, land, labor, and people? Yes, I said and people. The amount of people going to African nations to take the children for pleasure, to kidnap the children. Come on now. Nobody talks about that, right? Nobody talks about that. These are questions many people are afraid to ask openly. But they are questions that continue to grow louder throughout the African world. At the same time, this conversation cannot become an excuse to deny the humanity of anyone. Every human being deserves dignity, privacy, and protection from violence or abuse. Adults have the right to live their personal lives as they choose behind closed doors. Behind closed doors. But many African people are questioning why private behavior is now being transformed into a worldwide political movement that governments are pressured to publicly endorse. You already have the right. Go home and close your doors and do all the rainbow antics you want. You have the right to do that because nobody's interested in what you're doing, right? For many, it feels less like organic progress and more like another form of foreign influence being forced upon societies that are already struggling to survive. and don't want to have nothing to do with that foolishness. Do what you do. I'm freaky. I don't need a government to push an agenda to say, well, let's push the freaky heterosexual, flaming heterosexual black male activity that's done behind closed doors that Lance Scurv does. No, it's behind closed doors. Sometimes in the back seat and sometimes in the alleyway when nobody's looking. But that's not something, I already have that right. I can do whatever it is that I want to do behind closed doors. So why is it unacceptable to other people? You want rights? You can go to the store and go shopping. You can go to the movies. You can walk down the street, right? You can go to a nightclub. You can go to a restaurant. Why? And how am I supposed to know what you do behind closed doors? Right? Why are people afraid to say these things? The tragedy is that many African people no longer recognize how deep the programming has become. We've been taught to reject ourselves while embracing everything outside of ourselves. We celebrate foreign beauty standards while mocking African features. That's more important to me than any other stuff that people say they want rights for. We praise foreign cultures while ignoring our own traditions. We spend billions supporting companies that do not support us while our own businesses struggle to survive. What's up with that? We are emotionally trained to distrust Black leadership, criticize Black success, and compete against one another instead of cooperating. It's ingrained in us. This mental condition did not happen accidentally. I'm going to say it until the cows come home. Colonialism never truly ended. It simply changed clothes. In the past, colonizers needed armies to control Africa. Today, they use media, debt, entertainment, corporate influence, and political pressure. They no longer need chains around our ankles when they can place chains around our thinking. Think about that. One of the most dangerous effects of this conditioning is the destruction of Black solidarity. We no longer see ourselves as part of one global African family. See, that's not acceptable to the enemy. Instead, we identify ourselves through dozens of competing labels that weaken our collective power. The more fragmented we become, the easier it is for outside interests to influence our governments, shape our lives, exploit our resources, and redirect our priorities. You know, you got some Black folks out here, they got their priorities all screwed up. This is why so many African people feel frustrated when foreign nations lecture African countries about social policies while simultaneously benefiting from Africa's gold, oil, diamonds, cobalt, lithium, labor, and land, as well as the pleasure they derive from African bodies on the down low when they come here for tourist sex or whatever you call it. The passport grannies, them white women that come from Europe looking for Black penis. Let's talk about that, but nobody wants to talk about that. See, it creates the appearance that Africa is respected only when it follows the agenda of outside powers. But true sovereignty means African nations should have the freedom to define their own moral, cultural, and political paths without intimidation or economic pressure. There's something deeply troubling about a world where starving children receive less global passion than social movements pushed through billion-dollar campaigns. Remember when Kamala Harris came to Ghana, pushing that mess, offering money? In many African communities, people wake up every day struggling to survive. Farmers battle droughts. Families battle inflation. Young people struggle to find jobs. Communities lack clean water, reliable electricity, healthcare, and quality education. Yet global media often spends more time discussing identity politics than the actual conditions destroying human lives. Many people feel that the priorities being forced onto African communities are disconnected from reality. They wonder why there is not the same worldwide pressure to stop corruption, rebuild African industries, create fair trade systems, or protect African ownership of African resources. They wonder why Africa's population growth is treated like a threat, while other regions celebrate population growth as strength and economic opportunity. See the hypocrisy? Africa has one of the youngest populations on Earth. That youth represents power, labor, creativity, and future influence. Some people believe there are global interests uncomfortable with the possibility of a fully united, economically independent, resource-controlling African continent. Of course they do. They want to have it for themselves. Whether one agrees completely with that belief or not, the history of exploitation in Africa makes many people suspicious whenever outside powers aggressively attempt to reshape African culture and values. At the same time, fear alone cannot guide us. African people must learn how to think critically without falling into blind hatred or emotional manipulation. Not every social movement is part of a conspiracy, but not every global campaign is innocent either. The real issue is whether African people are being allowed to determine their own future, or whether that future is constantly being engineered by outside forces with economic and political interests. That's the bottom line. You think they're going to come at you with transparency? They never did before. Why do you think they're coming that way now? What cannot be denied is that division benefits those already in power. Every hour African people spend fighting each other online over labels, lifestyles, politics, or identity is another hour lost building schools, businesses, land ownership, family structures, community protection, economic independence, and global unity. The enemy of Black progress does not always need to destroy us physically when we are already destroying each other mentally. How about that? One of the strongest realities today is how deeply African people have been trained to reject each other emotionally. Black love is constantly under attack. Black families are weakened. Black men and women are pushed into endless conflict. Social media rewards dysfunction more than discipline. Entertainment rewards chaos more than stability. Toxicity receives more attention than unity. When a people lose love for themselves, they become easy to manipulate. A people disconnected from self-respect will chase validation from outsiders instead of building strength from within. This is why so many African people now measure success through material possessions instead of collective advancement. Expensive clothing, luxury cars, social media status, and celebrity worship have replaced community building, spiritual growth, land ownership, and economic unity. The system understands something many of us refuse to understand. A united African people would become one of the most powerful forces on this planet Earth. Africa contains enormous natural wealth, undisputed. The global African population represents hundreds of millions of people worldwide. Our cultural influence shapes music, sports, fashion, language, and entertainment across the planet. If that influence were combined with economic discipline, political unity, and self-love, self-love, the balance of power in the world could change dramatically and damn near instantly. That possibility is exactly why division remains profitable. Division keeps African people emotionally exhausted. You're fighting each other all day on some level. You're politically weak and economically dependent. Division prevents long-term planning. Division creates confusion about identity. Division turns brother against brother and sister against sister. Division keeps us reacting emotionally instead of organizing strategically. When many of us see each other, we think and look for reasons to be divided. We look for differences. And while we remain distracted, our communities continue to suffer from violence, poverty, poor education, unhealthy food system with that GMO foolishness, right? Spiritual emptiness and economic exploitation. Yet these issues rarely receive the same coordinated global attention as social agendas that reshape cultural values. Read between the lines, but I said it already. Many African people see this imbalance and feel that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. And they have a right to feel that way because something is happening beneath the surface. The greatest revolution African people need today is not rooted in anger alone. It must begin with mental liberation. We must relearn how to love ourselves, trust ourselves, support ourselves, and build with one another. No outside government will save us. No political party will save us. No corporation will save us. The future of African people depends on whether we finally understand the importance of unity, discipline, self-respect, economic cooperation, and cultural confidence. That does not mean every African person must think exactly the same. I'm not saying that. Unity does not require uniformity. People will always have different lifestyles, beliefs, personalities, and perspectives. No doubt. But there must be something bigger connecting us beyond those differences. There must be a shared commitment to protecting African people worldwide from exploitation, manipulation, and ultimately, total destruction. We must stop allowing ourselves to become emotionally controlled by every distraction placed in front of us. We must stop tearing one another apart for every disagreement while the larger systems of power continue operating without resistance. We must learn how to focus on survival, ownership, family stability, education, economic independence, and long-term strategy. The painful truth is that no enemy can destroy a people who truly love themselves and stand together. The reason division is pushed so aggressively is because unity is powerful. A united people cannot be easily manipulated. A united people cannot be easily conquered. A united people cannot be easily erased. And by the way that things look, somebody out there wants to erase us. If you haven't figured that out by now, I don't know what can convince you. The future of African people will depend on whether we continue accepting division as normal. See, that's the problem. Or whether we finally recognize that our greatest strength has always been each other. The world already knows the power of African people. They benefit from it. That is why there has always been an effort to weaken our confidence, fracture our unity, and redirect our focus away from true empowerment. The battle has never only been physical. It has always been psychological and spiritual. Yes, it was physical for a time, and in places, yes. But deeper than that, it's been psychological and spiritual. We cannot continue fighting each other while others organize against us economically, politically, and culturally. Every generation of African people must decide whether it will repeat the same cycles of division or finally break free from them. Unity is not weakness. Unity is survival. The future belongs to the communities that control their own resources, educate their own children, protect their own culture. By all means, protect your culture and build strong family structures. No social movement should become more important than the survival and advancement of the people themselves. African people worldwide must begin seeing one another as allies instead of enemies. We must rebuild trust, rebuild love, rebuild discipline, and rebuild purpose. The greatest wealth we possess is not money or resources. It is our collective potential when we stand together. Because in the end, the greatest threat to our future is not what outsiders do to us, it's what happens when we forget who we are and turn against each other while the world watches us fall apart. I hope you enjoyed my rant. Go to landscurvx.com to listen to more. Sign up there. It's all free. Because I'm going to be speaking more graphic, more powerful, unbridled, bold, raw, and uncut, as always. But just know, I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. I love you all. Take care. On to the next one. And please don't forget what I took the time to say to you. Lance Scurv out. Peace.